The arsonist had oddly shaped feet.
Which rich witch washed which wristwatch?
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mike.
Jesse.
I'm rejoined today by Mr. Hassan Ghiassi, the founder of Aristotle Cafe, small group discussions facilitated. Hassan, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, this is the first episode of season 2. So
First episode.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
You're cracking the champagne bottle on the ship, cutting the rope. What else? Cutting the umbilical cord.
Kind of wish we had a champagne bottle.
Tell me about it. I wish we had a ship.
Hi, I'm Michael New. I'm an actor, producer, writer, and I got a background in engineering.
Hey, I'm Jesse Maddox. I'm an editor, musician, and owner of the best studio in Bangkok.
This is a show about people who are passionate about the fruits of their labor.
Welcome to Passion Fruit.
Hassan, the first question we usually ask on this show is, what's your passion?
Oh, so I think one of the reasons why you guys brought me on, and one of the things that I am super passionate about for my whole entire life and for over a decade, is just getting people together, having conversations, having discussions that matter, and really bringing out different perspectives and ideas.
That's actually the coolest answer we've had in a while. I was actually watching a podcast with two standout figures. One was Ben Shapiro and one was Logan Paul. I don't know if you know either of these people. One is a political kind of pundit and one is a douchebag. No offense, but that was, I think it was, he had a similar question. What is the most important thing about the world? And he said having discussions. Just having discussions is like an extremely important thing.
Yeah, and I think it's something, like, for me personally, it's something that we don't do so much anymore. Like, even now, I mean, we're on a certain medium, which is great to get out there, but I think seeing people's expressions, having the chance to really get in touch with people and hear different ideas and not just be behind a keyboard and, like, be brave in that case, but actually standing up for what you believe in, and also kind of opening your mind for a second and seeing what someone else is thinking and where they're coming from. And maybe you don't agree with it, but it might shade your perspective in a good way, right?
Golf clap.
Nice.
Yeah.
For all the people watching, why don't you walk us through a typical Aristotle Cafe meetup?
Okay, so before I do that, and because I really have to make sure to thank all the country leaders, because I'm not the only one that does it, right? So we have Aylin in Iceland, Rashida in Myanmar, Uyanga in Mongolia, Tan here in Thailand, Hossam in Indonesia, and they all lead these sessions each and every week, and so it's awesome to have them. We have facilitators that run things all over the world, and also just people that come and sit down. And so the way that it looks is like this, is that basically people come, strangers, friends, enemies, they write down any question that they want, and then a facilitator like myself is trained basically to have them vote on which question they want to choose. So there's no topic normally, it's just random. And then the second thing is that we guide them through by only questioning and by kind of uncovering assumptions and kind of leading it through a deeper dive into things. And we end up with more questions than answers. So like we really think that it's there. I mean, we really believe that it's not about like getting on a soapbox and preaching. This isn't like a case for you to just overpower other people. It's really that collective idea on a topic. And so, yeah, that's what it looks like in a snapshot.
Is this based on kind of like a debate forum or?
So I would say what we do is almost, it was not like anti-debate,
right? But
it is definitely a different take on it. Like our thought is that we have perspectives, but we are not those perspectives. Like, you know, I can be,
right. I know what you mean.
I can be atheist or I can be religious. We can talk about the idea of love, and maybe there's some commonalities there, and maybe there's not, but we're not beholden to feel so emotionally charged about throwing that into the center, letting it get beat around a little bit, letting it get pushed and pulled. We're okay with that.
Right.
So we're not trying to win. We're just trying to have dialogues that allow us to become a little bit, I would say, more human.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's a common problem with debates in their very nature that they are kind of competitive and there has to be a winner and a loser. Whereas oftentimes there's a gray line in between correct points and incorrect points. I mean, I don't want to touch too much on politics, but similar to how if you have two political parties, sometimes you personally might take elements from each party as what you would prefer to see in your own government.
Sure.
But because they're just all or nothing, you don't have that middle ground.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think like one of the funniest examples of that is like we had the question of, is it correct to queue, like queue in a line, right? Like wait for, like, you know, that's the question we.
Some countries, yes.
Yeah, in some countries.
Yeah, well, you know, and I think in a lot of countries, you know, we have expats and we have Thais that come, and just a big cultural mix. And so it's just so funny because I think like across the board, everyone in the room at first is like, if there's a line, like, you wait in it, right? I mean, for the most part. And then
That's interesting.
But interestingly, someone else is like, yeah, but what if you're like, what if you're gonna die? Would you wait in the line? What if you're injured? What if you're so old that you're gonna fall down if you stand up for too long? Like, wouldn't you want someone to allow you to cut in line? Like, isn't that okay? And so I think there's like all these funny little pieces of the onion that sometimes we don't think about because it's so easy to be self-serving and like othering of people or othering of different things that might happen that you're not taking that split second.
So basically, back to in facilitator, is this what you are? Or is this the name of the program? Or?
I wear this shirt just in case I forget. Like, I am a facilitator, and so I need to make sure that I listen a little bit more than I talk, make sure that I have a skill set that allows me to be open-minded for an hour at a time, not too long, right? Because I'm normally over talkative. So like, it gives me the chance to sit in a space and kind of function in a way that's helpful for me and helpful to the community.
Right.
So facilitator is what we do. Like, we facilitate, and then Aristotle's Cafe is the format in which we decided to do it. Okay. And that format is not a cafe. It is actually like a moment, like an experience that we can go and be anywhere in the world with it.
Well, I really wish you weren't wearing the shirt for this podcast because we were kind of hoping you'd carry us through this.
Okay.
I got another question for you.
Yeah.
In my experience, I find it's very difficult for people to admit they were wrong or change their mind about something. What have you found in your experience is the best way to encourage someone to think differently about something?
Oh, that's a cool question. Yeah. Well, so it's hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, like, I think there's no way to figure out the right way, but I think there are some wrong ways, right? Like, wrong ways, telling people what's right or wrong, telling them what they should do, not listening to why they're doing what they're already doing, right? All these things are kind of the ways that you can make sure they won't change. So I think to flip that, like in our case, right, we allow people to be heard and valued and respected. And then I actually have developed something called the Epiphany Question Method. So it's what I do throughout the process of facilitating, and it's something that we train other facilitators in. So if you ask someone a question, like if I ask you queuing in line, right? So I might take that. So if I ask you queuing in line, well, like, if I immediately disagree with you and try to flip it on you, just say like, immediately like, well, what if your family member's injured?
Right.
Then you might be like, yeah, but that's an outside case, right?
Right.
So if I immediately try to introduce the idea that I believe in, then of course you're going to push back against it. So what we do is we try to guide people through questions, and we allow them to actually guide that pathway. We don't necessarily have a set way of thinking in mind, because as facilitators, we're pretty okay with what the group is throwing in, and we go with it, so it's appropriate to what's going on. We don't have a set agenda. So I would say that if you want to change someone's mind, really first find out where they're coming from, ask them questions to understand more, and then also don't have a set agenda of where you actually want them to go, because if you are not open to change, then no one else is going to be open to change either. So I think it's kind of a funny, like maybe like a unique place to sit in that process.
That's interesting you'd say that. Do you think that's a technique that maybe more lawyers should use in the courtroom?
Well, I don't know, because I think, all right, like persuasion or like change.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I think like persuasion or change or whatever these things are, like immediately when you say lawyer, like it can be used in any context. All these skill set can be used in any context, right?
Sure,
like
absolutely.
As the way that we use it is fairly altruistic, you know? So I think, but throughout the process of like we flex our communication muscles every week, right? Like it's, for me, like communication and the skills around that and 21st century skills, it's not something that you go to one workshop, you go to 1 or 2 day training, and then you have it. So it is something for sure, like you're saying, if I was a lawyer and I knew how to connect with people, if I knew how to talk in a way that allows them to be open-minded about certain facts and figures and ways of thinking, then I could use it to help my clients for sure, right? Like there's profitable things that you can do with this skill set. I always hope that people use it for the betterment of the world and not necessarily the bottom line. But yeah, I mean,
which came first, the cafe or the I want to say program, but I'm not sure what you're right.
Yeah, so like how did it come about, I guess, right?
Yeah,
So there's actually a book by a really great guy called Christopher Phillips, and he wrote a book called Socrates Cafe. And like the way that he functioned in that book is like Socrates. He would go and he challenged different groups, and it was cool what he did. And when I was at university, the debate team and like some teachers there picked that up, and they had an idea to create more discussions peer-to-peer, students to students. So I think like lazily and also just making it like the student of Socrates, Aristotle's is a little bit down from that. And so first it was a concept to get people together, and then I was thrown into it with a bunch of other students. Kind of like, there's this loose idea, let's see who figures something out, and then make people talk. Like make them talk, and you kind of stay out of it. And my group kept getting feedback that was really funny. It was like, this guy was doing nothing. Why was he even there? He was useless. He gave no opinions. We don't know what his role was. And then on the other side, it was like, this was the best educational experience of my life. We should do this every day. So they're like, what are you doing, Hassan? And so I kind of they watched me and kind of systemized it, and then I taught my peers, and then it became something that kept growing. Yeah.
So if someone's not a regular, or say someone's just walking by, can they walk in and just take part, or what is the
Yeah, so in the U.S. it was pretty interesting. In the U.S. we had people that were homeless, people that were rich, people that were students, people that were children that came with their parents. So we had a really big mix. That's awesome. And we cap at about like per session, per circle needs to be about 18, like at the max.
That's great. That's a big number.
Yeah, well we only, I think it's like a great amount of diversity, but then it's only 60 minutes. So we keep it short and tight because, one, facilitators all volunteer. This has never been charged for over the history of what we've been doing. Brilliant. It's not a very profitable thing to decide, but
some of the best things are not.
Yeah. So we have done that for so long, and like, so it's both ways. Is that as a facilitator, or right, facilitators, who are they? They are also students, they are teachers, they are managers, they are from a wide breadth of backgrounds. Yeah. So that 1 hour is not too much for them. And then also for participants, it's like if they come and it's a question that they love or are not so passionate about, it was only an hour, right? So so that's how we do it. And then we normally have signups because we've gotten so popular that if we just leave it open, then sometimes there's 30 people that come and you feel bad.
Yeah, and for something like this, you kind of want to like lock it in.
So everybody gets a chance to see.
Yeah, and also you might have someone just kind of wandering. Well, I'll just pop my head in and then I'll leave. You don't want that either.
Yeah. And it's important too because part of how we set it up is important. So people, it's funny how foreign it is for people to sit in a space and have these kind of like this kind of space.
It's quite therapeutic, I would assume.
Yeah, and I mean like, and so I think it's also true, like I never thought about it before, but if people do just drop in, they aren't part of that initial onboarding, like 2 or 3 minute onboarding at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And,
I almost think about that like when I did like a Vipassana meditation retreat, like it's extremely beneficial for anyone who does it, and it's free. But like, you can't just, you really have to kind of prepare yourself. They have a really long, and I think that's a good, you kind of want to go through a few steps before you're in the zone, right? And it's great.
In your discussions you sometimes touch on contentious topics. I find that more and more society, specifically North America, has a great deal of value on this kind of PC culture. Do you think there's value to discussing things that make people uncomfortable?
For sure. I mean, yes. So simple answer is yes. To make it a little bit longer, we create a safe space, but that's funny because this kind of became a bad word now, right?
Well,
So over the years, 10 years ago it wasn't. 10 years ago there wasn't
Safe space.
There wasn't safe space, and there wasn't a bad
It's like
feeling of
it's
it.
almost as if it's not a bad word, but it's a word that people use in mockery or like, oh, do you need your safe space, pussy? It's like, it's like unfortunate.
Yeah, and like, so for me too, I think part of that is that to add something to it, now we've kind of start changing the language to be a safe and brave space. For me, actually, what we do the whole time is all about allowing people to make mistakes, to say some horrible stuff, possibly, right? But of course, they're trying to be correct, and they're trying to be honest and truthful, right? It's like, speak your truth. If your truth, for example, because it has happened, especially in the U.S., is that someone is sitting across from someone, they're like, I don't like Muslims. I personally hate Muslims. So I don't trust Muslims. I think you're a terrorist, right? Whatever it might be. And it's that opportunity for them to sit across from someone else, and that person be like, whoa, well, why is that your experience, right? This is the important part, because it's like, if you can get two people that are that far apart in opinion and get them to friggin' communicate and not throw stones, that is like, that's world changing. And I mean, because obviously if we could get everyone in the world to do that, the world would be such a better place. But it's hard to do that. You need a facilitator. You need to sign up. It's like, damn it, I wish the people didn't have to sign up just to have a good conversation and to find common ground. Yeah, and I think another funny piece of that, like, so you're asking, is it valuable to have those controversial discussions? Well, I think one funny thing too is that we don't introduce each other at the beginning. We don't go
like
around, we don't go around and go like, we don't do it like that. We're not like, hi, my name is Hassan.
No.
I'm a manager at that.
It's anonymous.
Yeah, I mean, it's when they sit down, no one knows what their back. I mean, they might talk before, but that's up to them, right?
So some person might be like, that guy looks like a Muslim.
Yeah. Or the funnier thing that happens is, like, when someone might say something like that, they don't even realize that person that they've actually agreed with throughout the conversation fits in that category that they hate.
Disagree with.
That they hate, right?
Hate, yeah.
And it's just so funny. So I think it's also part of that is, one, having those discussions, and also controversial is, I think there's nothing wrong with controversial. I think the problem is that when you are not seeing the opposition to your controversial ideas, we as humans are always going to look for, like, I think it's called like confirmation bias.
Bias or echo chamber, right?
Yeah, and you're getting fed news that lines up with what you think, and you're searching for news that lines up with what you think, and you're talking to people that line up with what you think.
And you're watching, exactly. This sounds like a ultra mature. I mean, it doesn't sound like this is a ultra mature thing that's going on with what you're talking about. It's something that your average, kind of someone who doesn't give a damn wouldn't go and sign up for. So my question is, do you get a fair share of haters, Hatemongers, or people that are filled with rage? Do you really get that? You must not get a lot of that.
So I think that's a really good question. It's something that I've.
That's also I'm not sure if you're even allowed to say.
Well, I actively try to bring in as much diversity as possible.
Sure.
In Bangkok, there's a certain demographic that comes. It's when we do English and Thai. A lot of these countries too, we do it in the local language as well as English.
Okay.
So here it's English and Thai, and part of the reason why it's important for me to put in the local language is that I really want it to be accessible. So, and my dream would be actually to allow it for people to come in, sit down, get food and drink provided for them. Right. If there's any sponsors out there, get food or drinks provided for them. And then also, I think that brings in a different group, because even like a 60 baht, like drink at a coffee shop,
maybe a cow pat.
But it is like a barrier to entry for people, right?
Absolutely.
And So in terms though of like a little bit more extreme people in Bangkok, I would say we get some pretty diverse views.
Yeah. I mean, I can also imagine on the other hand of my saying, oh, you don't get a lot of that. On the other hand, I bet you some people come in there who think they are uber mature and then realize they've got more prejudice than they even realized they had.
Yeah, and I think, and also too, there's also these stories of people that commute 2 or 3 hours to come for a 1 hour session to be with us, that they might be living out like, pretty far outside of Bangkok. They're hungry for discussions that might, spark some new ideas. They're feeling secluded and they come out.
They need to get a load off.
Yeah, exactly. And so those individuals are a little bit tight-wound sometimes, right? As you'd imagine.
Yeah.
And we welcome them. Like, we're really happy to have everyone and anyone. So,
I mean, that's why when I said it's therapeutic, I mean, damn, if it's not super therapeutic for some people, I'm sure. I mean, that's you're giving a service that some people pay a lot of money for.
Well, to rewind for a second, you touched on confirmation bias. It's interesting to me that, especially in this age where we have so much social media and it's so easy to become a group with people who share the exact same interest as you, here is Aristotle Cafe, where your same interest is that you have different interests and you want to talk about it. So it's just interesting that it's like it flipped that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit bizarre. I also too, I mean, I've talked to like, we've facilitated free discussions for over 10,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. Like these people might actually really not like to hang out with each other afterwards, but like there's a moment, right, that they can kind of connect on some level, and not everyone walks away holding hands and like planning dinners and stuff.
Or even, I'm sure even some people don't even come out like beneficially growth or anything like that. Some people might come out just as...
Yeah, some people come to talk each and every week,
yeah.
Right? For sure. Like, we have people that come to talk every week,
right,
just to let everyone know what's right or wrong, just to let everyone know what's up.
Job done.
Yeah, that they clock in and clock out. They put that work in. And then we also have a big diversity, but I think you are absolutely right. People are coming to talk about different subjects, but inside of that too, there's, like I said, there's a lot of layers. Some people come because they're Toastmasters and they want to practice their public speaking. Some people that come that are new to town and they want to meet new friends. There's some people that come that just are super hungry for like philosophy and they want to come for that. So there's so many different things. And then there's some people that come because they are feeling outcast, depressed. They just want to be around other people because they want to have the feeling of camaraderie and...
Well, you're certainly helping people. I mean, one way or another. It seems to be that there's something beneficial that anyone can get out of it, whether it be because of this or that. And I do think that it goes back to what your original, very first thing was, which was talking about discussion, how important discussion is. It's, not necessarily about, training people to do this or educating. It's just about getting people to talk and have a discussion, and that seems to be very helpful for people.
I'm biased, but
yeah. I confirm that.
I've always been a big advocate of travel as a way to expand your horizons and see what's out there and meet new people in new situations. I mean, not everybody has the luxury of travel, but I do feel like this format gives you that opportunity to step outside of your local community, especially if it's or your bubble, and think differently about something, expand your horizons, and more often than not, from my own experience, I've found that when you do that, you tend to be a more accepting person at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, like I think you said it absolutely right. I couldn't even add anything better to that. It's just also too, there's so many people in the U.S., right? I think it's only like 15% have passports. I don't know. That's what it was like when
really?
I know that's
shocking.
low. I know it's low.
Yeah.
I know that most people, more people than not, are like, why would I need to leave America? We got everything.
I mean, it's such a big country.
It's a big country.
Yeah.
You do feel like you're going to another country if you're going to another region.
I had a friend the other day. He's like, "Why would I ever leave Texas? It's got everything."
Right. But I was just thinking about this all the time about Europe and how it's there's countries that are like in America they're states.
Yeah.
But in Europe they're countries, and like some countries are similar right next to each other, but then as you go 3 countries over, it's a lot different. But obviously Europe and America, it's not the same. But it is interesting how if you drive across America, which I've done, you're going through different countries, it feels like, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I also think, too, is that the other piece that I was like, yeah, actually, why would you leave Texas? I don't actually think it's necessary to travel. One is that if you maybe you don't have the means. Also, I think 15% having a passport, or I'm not sure if that's still the number, but I remember it was low in the past. But that I think that includes the border states, right? So it also means that they might just go back and forth between Canada or Mexico. Right. And you know, for me, I think having these type of discussions, sometimes inside of our own culture, we can travel pretty far just within our own neighborhood. There's already enough diversity and experience. Like right at home, like you don't really have to go 1,000 miles or take a flight to really get outside of that zone.
In your time running the cafe, what have been some of the most interesting topics that you've explored?
I think one that really shaped my perspective and also helped me as a new facilitator to get like outside of really know what it means to be open-minded is that when I was facilitating, so I'm not supposed to talk. I'm only supposed to ask questions. I'm supposed to be pretty neutral. That's kind of the rules.
Right.
And the question that we started with is, what is freedom? And this was I think about 10 years ago. So it was, I don't know. It was a while ago, right? Right at the beginning of when I was doing this. So maybe 14, maybe I don't know, so long. But it was right at that time that people were talking a lot about healthcare and universal healthcare and things like that. And I for sure am on the side of universal healthcare. Like I think I've lived in Sweden, I've lived in Germany, I've seen what it's like in in Thailand, also in the US, and comparing these things, and there's nothing worse than someone that you love being sick and not being able to afford to take care of them, right? This is like horrible.
I know.
So that was like my mindset. And then the question was freedom. And immediately people start talking about, well, freedom is like a basic level of life, the ability to have a steady income, the ability to have good health, all that stuff. And I was really on that side. And there was this other side, and this is as a facilitator what we have to do. There's like, out of 18 people, there's like 2 people that were kind of like, nah, that's not what freedom is. That's not it. That's not good. Right. And as a facilitator, I had to give them voice. And it was definitely difficult. But also, too, the other thing is that once they spoke up, they were like, freedom is actually the ability to fall to the depths of like nothingness or to soar to the highest, right? Like that's what their definition of freedom was. And I never would have agreed with the arguments against healthcare or things like that, right? I never would have agreed with it. But when someone defined freedom like that, I was kind of like, it really changed my mind about it. It is true, right? Because real freedom is actually the true ability to screw up like as much as you can or to succeed as much as you can. And I think I don't know if I don't know what policies I would vote on in the future based off of that definition, but I definitely do.
And that's the interesting thing. It's because once we can bite our tongue, bite our lip, and like you said, force yourself to give the voice to someone who you would think is a F-tard. Suddenly you can really, you could probably benefit from anybody. As long as they're speaking, a little bit intelligently. Just like you were saying earlier, we don't talk about the politics too much, but with this left and right sort of thing, if you're on one side, this person tends to just be blind to any ideas that come from the other side, which I think is silly because you're never going to get anywhere without finding the good sides of each other. And isn't that the whole point? To cooperate.
Yeah, I think it's just, and I think it's like taking a breath and just a moment, just one moment to like weigh out what's there, right? You don't have to completely change. You don't have to go off the grid of what you normally feel like, but just a few minutes, right?
Speaking of moments, have there been other moments where you felt that your own opinion was changed about something through exploration of a certain topic?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely a difficult thing because I don't consider myself a religious person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I consider myself a very religious person. Like I stick.
Wow.
Hang on.
180.
Hey, sorry about
Let's
that.
facilitate this for a second.
But I should say is like I don't follow a standard religion, but I consider myself an extremely religious person. And religion to me is really how you bond with the world around you, how you live your life, how you wake up and go to sleep, and how like that value set. And so
Yeah, I hear you.
right. I mean, I've had
I almost feel similarly, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
I would say I'm atheist, but not anti-theist, in the sense that I think everybody has the right to believe in whatever religion they want, so long as that doesn't, affect negatively on other people.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
What's negatively?
Well, I mean, I think there are many, many good aspects to religion, and if you only focus on those really good elements, then especially, I think
feel like
religion
this
can
debate
help
is
a
done,
lot
yeah.
of people become better people too, and for them, I think religion's fantastic.
I mean, I grew up in a household that was like a father from Iran who is spiritual, mom from America who's spiritual. It's not. I am the same religion as my parents are, right? I think that's typical.
Yeah.
I mean, but another thing for me is that you're asking if like I've changed my mindset or things like that, and for me, I live in a certain way, and so I think it's really frustrating for most people. So in some cases, it's funny. I'll get into some conversations. There'll be some disagreements, and there's some moments where I'll be like, I felt that way at that time, and I said that at that time, but I'm human. Like I'm able to change. So if it's really something that I should change or should shift my perspective on, I really do weigh it all out. So I think it's pretty frustrating for people sometimes to figure out what I'm going to do or like what my thoughts are. And also people in the community, sometimes they say to me, we don't know your opinion because you always ask so many questions,
Right.
and you're always facilitating dialogue. And so it's, but I definitely do. I stay really true to kind of the golden rules throughout religions. Don't steal, don't cheat, don't kill people, don't do bad things, do unto others what you want onto yourself. I kind of take
That's
that.
interesting. I grew up in a religious household. In other words, we went to church and stuff like that. But like I knew that both my parents were like not, hold a hand on the Bible type of, they were, kind of loose. But and I think through my rebellious years, through teenage and everything, there was this point of like, it's all pointless, and then I came back to where I am now, which I find very interesting, which is just like values. A lot of that comes out of good religion, whatever good is, whatever. But religion can bring in values, and I think that a society without values, it's very detrimental without values, right? Some sort of a good value system, and again, I don't like to use the word good because it's too broad. A lot of people have
can be
different
subjective.
opinions on what the hell good is, but values in general, and like if you start to have a society that's a nihilist and like nothing matters. I mean, so I think I like the way you're looking at it, which is instead of saying no, this specific religion is why I am. No, it's more like religion. I mean, there's so much that comes that good from it, and I am religious in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, and what is religion, right? Like, I think that's also a funny question: is what is religion? I mean, so to me, it's a set of kind of direction, socialization in terms of how you might connect and treat the world better as a whole, right? Like that's kind of what it is. It's supposed to be there to allow you to find answers. And on that note too, is like for me, it's kind of funny, right? Weekly, I meet with a group of people to go through a guided process.
Don't tell me it's on Sunday.
To find answers, and so I think people just, I mean, humans try to find that. Like we want to find that. It doesn't mean that it's all going to be the right way, but I have a weekly practice that I take part in, and it follows a certain order. It's an hour. It's full of diversity and disagreements and all that stuff. And that's how I choose to carry out my thought process and my decision making and my socialization process. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I know you said this is it's nonprofit. Is that it's 100? Is there, or is there any type of commercialization to this?
It's more complicated than that because
I don't judge you.
Well, no, it's more complicated because it's just been individuals. So it has not ever been registered.
Not an organization per se.
No. So actually, I've just been my own social enterprise for most of the for all these years. I work to do training, consulting, marketing, and other things, and then I make that money, and then I put my time and energy and into that and
Passion for it.
Yeah.
Indeed.
That's why we got you on.
Thank you.
So, do you see it? I mean, no pressure. Do you see it? Could you imagine it ever kind of going in the direction of more?
Well, Jesse,
Bearing
glad
fruit?
that you asked.
Yeah, well, Segway is my middle name.
Yeah, so actually, I mean, it's a really interesting time right now because we are in 6 countries. We have this massive following now. We're getting invited to do more and more activities. We're invited by companies, startups, everything like that to create a better culture inside of companies and inside of communities. So on the 29th of October, we will be launching a crowdfunding campaign that is all around registering a nonprofit and really getting it legit registered so we can benefit from that growth. And also launching a podcast, which will be a mixture of discussions, podcasted, and then interviews with interesting people and outliers, asking them questions that they normally would never, ever get asked.
That's a great idea. I think podcasts are wonderful.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Hopefully we can get on that.
Yeah, this is a good intro for me.
Right? I'll pop over onto that one if you'll have me.
Yeah, I will for sure.
So if you are watching this before the 29th, keep that in mind. That's in 4 days from now, today, in this world that you're watching.
Let's see if it happens 29th to December 8th.
Okay.
So even if it's a little bit late, they'll be able to jump on. Some really cool rewards there all around communication skills, online courses. We have a facilitation course online. That's how this started to grow so much bigger now. It's because people have access to it. And then if you're in Bangkok on the 16th, there's going to be of November
2019,
there is going to be an awesome crowdfunding party where we're going to have, it'll be more of like a community party feeling. I don't want it to be too squeaky clean, I don't want to be too produced.
Right.
We're going to have some acoustic musicians that are volunteering to play, some nice drinks, some perks that you can get there, some people that you can meet.
You don't mean
there.
Percocets, right?
No, not Percocet.
Some Zanny bars.
Not that
Okay,
type of party.
Gotcha. Cool, man. Well, I mean, how far are we into this thing? This sucker. It's just so I can keep
Let's check the time.
We're at 45. So
We can go for a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it would be fun if you ran us through a little mini Aristotle cafe right here.
That's brilliant. I like it.
All right, guys. So
Yeah, here's the real deal.
Here we go.
but this is going to be a little bit weird because it's like just 2 of you.
Dude, it's
So
Passion Fruit podcast.
It's all right. I can play devil's advocate.
I can be multiple personalities if you need.
All right, so to adapt the format, I think it's important because, or also be a little bit.
This is 2 people. I
Yeah,
know.
this is so. Let's adapt a bit.
Yeah,
So
try a new way.
the most common question that everyone always asks, no matter what culture, no matter what country, there's a few of them, but the one that I will ask you now, try to think about it as little as possible and just give your answer right away, is what is happiness?
Okay.
It depends on how you want to define happiness. Is happiness the thing that makes you happy, like travel or food or family?
Wow, don't think too much hard about it.
Or
That's
is it the
we follow the
scientific,
rules.
or is the scientific
This guy.
view of happiness, whereas it's endorphins firing in your brain? So I mean, we could look at it in that respect.
Well, my answer would be doing what you love.
Okay. Very simple. So for Jesse, it's more like doing. So let's go on that note. So let's do about that way, not scientific, more. So what do you think?
I think there are different forms of happiness. I think there is a long-term happiness, which comes out of things like friends and family and that feeling of community. And there are forms of short-term happiness. I just bought this sweet new shirt.
Whacking off.
Yeah, but I do feel they're also both or you're partying or something. I mean, I think they're both forms of happiness, but they're very, very different in their nature.
But then, well, so then in one way though, I feel like let's try to get down to it a little bit more, especially too because both of you guys are quite intelligent individuals, and I feel like people might want to know what you have to think about happiness.
If only they knew how many times we cut out stupid questions.
So I mean, like, so for you, it's doing what you love, but at the same time, there is that different nature of what happiness is, right? So we have that short-term, burst of kind of endorphins and things like that, and then we also have that long-term kind of family, relationship happiness. So I guess the question is that how important is it to go towards that every day, maybe?
Well, for me personally, it's shaped my entire life and career. I started out as a civil engineer, and while I didn't dislike it, I didn't love it. Acting, writing, producing, voice acting, over 90% of what I do now, I really enjoy and I love. And I've tried to lead my life here in Thailand, which is a country which I also love, in a way that gives me the least amount of stress and the most amount of experience and interpersonal relationships and opportunity to travel and do the things that I want to do.
Yeah, and I suppose because doing what you love, I think can be interpreted in many different ways, and I recognize that now because that was my answer without thinking too hard. But now, as I think about it, maybe a deeper way to put it would be, and this is something that I try to do on a daily basis that's not hard and that's not easy. It's actually difficult probably for everyone, which is following and listening to that inner voice. I don't know if you guys have it, but I know that I have and always have had this inner voice, not like a literal one, but a guide. I mean, some people call it God, right? Some people call it just you, the real you. Some people call it their moral compass. But I don't know. There's always this thing that's telling me what I truly know is the right thing to do. And then it's like the devil and the angel on your shoulder. And then there's the thing that's more surface level that I absolutely feel that it's not, I don't have to think hard or I don't have to go deep to hear it. It's just like, Jesse, go eat that. Jesse, go do that. Go see this. And like yesterday I woke up early and I had a very short time before I had to work where I could either go to the gym or play this video game. And my finger was trying to press play so hard, but there was a deeper me saying, dude, just go to the gym. Like you should, you should. And it won. And I went to the gym and, my happiness was real at that point. After I got off my ass and went to the gym and then ended up going to the pool. I never thought I was going to be in the pool before I went to work. And the sun was out. And that was true happiness. If I had played that game, I would have been stewing in my own self-pity because I couldn't get off my ass and go to the gym. So listening to that inner voice, also I could say maybe is another answer I would give.
It's interesting. I have heard that inner voice is your human nature, but what you decide to do, especially when you don't do what your inner voice is telling you, that's you. That's your own personality. That's your own conscious decision.
That actually makes sense, right? Because that's an interesting way of looking at it. I couldn't tell you which is which, but I mean, either way, I know that the one that I should be listening to, I know that one. I don't put a name to it. I don't know if it's me or my human nature or vice versa, but I inherently know that's the one, that it's the same one always that I should be listening to according to my own opinion.
And I think
but wait a second, because I'm trying to facilitate this here.
Okay.
Facilitate away, brother.
So
we're like not even letting you facilitate.
So now all right, so both of you described like different routes to that happiness. And then also too, I think for people when they normally hear of happiness, they always think of that feeling, that emotion of like goodness, right? Like a positive happiness, positive emotion. That's not everything that you described, but right, because you had a little bit more complexity. So I guess I'm wondering is that then, what does the road to that look like? I mean, what does the road to that happiness look like? Because it can't always be happy,
No.
right?
Yeah, I think you do definitely need hills. I mean, if you are born in the lap of luxury with everything around you and you never experience anything terrible in your life, losing your
Eventually,
sock
yeah.
could become a terrible occasion for you. Like the first girl to break up
running
with
into
you
real
could be awful.
worldly pain.
Right,
for the first time.
staying in a place without running water could just be me mind blowing. And yet, for someone who grew up with all of those things, and then going into the lap of luxury, and then suddenly experiencing that huge amount of happiness that this other person takes for granted, or I think another way that I like to look at this is for my own life again. I feel that sometimes I don't want to say suffer from anxiety because I think it blows it out of proportion, but I get a little itchy. I feel like I should be doing something, or I need to be accomplishing something, or if life is too easy, sometimes I get really bored in that day in, day out, that routine. And so I find I need to challenge myself, and I need to work hard to accomplish something, because that feeling of pride can last for a very long time. And that sense of self-worth, that sense of ego and accomplishment, I think is important.
And perhaps happiness is a fleeting emotion that comes along with sadness, anger, frustration, all kinds of acquisitiveness. Happiness is just one of many emotions that we feel as a human being, and a more just matter-of-fact way of answering that. Because, I don't believe that happiness is something that you should strive to feel all the time. That's just joy. Just being addicted to feeling good. Like again, back to the meditation thing. It's like the longer you sit in one spot, the more pain you're gonna feel. But that's the whole point. You're supposed to just because I think inherently humans actually enjoy focus and being focused in on not thinking, and it can bring you a real sense of nirvana, a real sense of, and maybe happiness and peace are two different things. And
accomplishing nirvana is something incredibly difficult to do.
And also accomplishing nirvana has nothing to do with once you're there, you're going, I'm the happiest person. It's most breathing like what is the word?
Like an even keel to it. Like
You're not being so happy, not being so sad, just being one at where we are right now, being this universally just set.
Yeah, it's an interesting question though. I don't know if it's possible to be happy all the time if you don't have things to put it into perspective.
I've got the right pills for that, buddy.
Well, I wonder if that's why there's a limit to how many endorphins drugs can produce.
Yeah.
There's only so much happiness you can physically take before it ceases to work, and that's why people will take more and more and more.
True.
I think so. It might be an interesting way to kind of wrap it up a little bit. Is like, it's funny too that we talk about happiness inside of a podcast that's all about passion. I think some people, they like what I've seen now. There's been a huge shift from when I first started this until the past maybe like 4 years or so. And I think a lot of it has to do with the industry of happiness, the industry of nirvana, the industry of Instagrammable moments. I mean, I don't know how many people are crying on their selfies, right? Like, I haven't seen many people like emotionally break down via their...
In Thailand, you see a little bit more of that.
You do, yeah.
It's popular.
Okay. So that's maybe
But again, for a reason. It's not... I don't know even how real the crying is either.
Yeah, so, I mean, but I think the question that maybe we could leave that on, at least just because I think we could talk about for hours, right, is that maybe the last question that I would leave it on is like... If your goal is to achieve some sort of happiness, which is a great goal to have, how much will you accept those other layers of emotions that come about in during what we call life, right? And like, so what will you do, and what steps will you take to kind of get there? So this has been a small taste of Aristotle's Cafe.
I like it. I mean, that is very, again, therapeutic is the word of the day for me.
If you would like to come on out for Aristotle Cafe, where should they go?
So they can check out us on Facebook, Facebook Aristotle's Cafe, online, Aristotle's Cafe, oneword.com. They can put in the show notes, put in the links wherever they might end up being. And then if they want, if anyone out there really thinks that this is valuable, thinks this is an amazing format and wants to support it from an organizational level or an individual level, then they can get in touch with me, or they can go to bit.ly/discussions that matter, all one word. That is for our crowdfunding site right now.
I can say personally, after doing just what we just did there, which was obviously what did you call it? A shoot off?
A small taste,
little
a tidbit, a demo.
It felt good.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, the way you ask and the way the facilitation aspect really helps it not just become three people who inherently will start arguing, or not even arguing, but just blabbering. It's nice to have that other element. And it's I don't know, it feels good.
Yeah, very therapeutic. Nice to get a little taste into the mind of Jesse.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Watch out. Careful what you wish for.
Maybe it was only a little bit.
Yeah, right. Well, that's amazing. Anything else?
Well, one more thing, I think, before we let you go.
Okay.
You're looking to pursue this now full time. Is that right?
Yeah, so I don't know what shape it'll take. The crowdfunding campaign is really my... I think one thing that is really interesting is I've been like a dream maker for other people for a long time. I help people build their businesses. I help people create marketing campaigns. I help people communicate their thoughts and ideas better. And I love to nurture people to achieve that goal. And it's just so ironic because I've been waking up every day for years really thinking to myself, I just want to facilitate, teach people how to facilitate, and create more of these spaces for people, because I know what it means to have your voice silenced. I know what it means to have, people be prejudiced against you, racist against you, people to shout and yell, and misunderstanding. I would, if I could do this every day for free, I would do it for free for the rest of my life. Really, I would. Yeah. And so I don't know what journey this will take me on. The crowdfunding that we're doing, really, even if we reach the $15,000 US dollars that we're hoping to raise, will get us to a point that we can just kind of start. I'm not asking for more than that. I just want to get a little bit so that we can get some registered things going, and I just don't have the personal bank account to roll that out myself, and it's a community thing. It's been a service for so long. I'm gonna bootstrap and hustle as much as I can to do it full time. And yeah, so I guess this is also kind of the start of that journey to launching into what pain will I go through to reach that happiness.
Well, maybe we can help a little bit from what time we've spent together. You seem like a really nice guy. You're putting yourself out there. You enjoy helping people. Maybe you'll help this guy help other people. Links to the campaigns are in the description.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, son.
Cheers, dude.
Passion Fruit Podcast. We're out.